Se você quer começar a pensar em inglês, existe uma coisa que você precisa fazer primeiro. E não é estudar mais, não é decorar mais palavras e não é aprender uma técnica milagrosa. Na verdade, é uma mudança muito simples, mas que pode fazer uma diferença enorme na forma como o seu cérebro aprende inglês. Se você ainda assiste filmes, séries ou vídeos em inglês com legenda em português, talvez elas estejam atrasando o seu aprendizado sem você perceber. E nesse vídeo eu vou te explicar como legendas em inglês vão ajudar no seu processo aprendendo inglês e até mesmo fazer você começar a pensar em inglês. Então não se esquece de se inscrever no canal, curte esse vídeo para eu saber que você gosta desse tipo de conteúdo, comenta alguma coisa e compartilha esse vídeo com seus amigos que também querem começar a pensar em inglês. Mas antes de tudo, eu preciso mudar para o inglês. Have you ever watched a movie in English with Portuguese subtitles and then realized that you weren't really listening to the English anymore? You were just reading the subtitles. If that sounds familiar, you are not alone. But before we continue, I want to make something very clear. I don't think Portuguese subtitles are bad. Actually, I think they're incredibly helpful when you are just starting to learn English. When you don't know many words yet, Portuguese subtitles help you understand the story, stay motivated, and enjoy what you are watching. And that's important. Because if you enjoy the process, you're much more likely to keep learning. But there comes a point where Portuguese stop helping as much as they used to. And that's because your brain gets comfortable. Let me explain what I mean. Imagine you're watching a movie and the character says, "Thanks." Do you still read the Portuguese subtitles that says, "Obrigado"? Probably not, right? Or maybe someone says, "Good morning, see you tomorrow," or "I'm sorry." There's a good chance that you already know what those expressions mean. You don't even need a translation anymore. Your brain already recognizes them automatically. And that's actually great news. It means you're making progress, but here's the problem. Even though you already know those words, your brain still has Portuguese subtitles available every second. So whenever you hear something new or something more difficult, what happens? Your eyes immediately look down and your brain wants for the translation. Without even realizing it, you've trained your brain to depend on Portuguese. Not because you are lazy, not because you are doing something wrong, simply because that's what it has been practicing. Your brain always takes the easiest path. So instead of building a direct connection between English and meaning, it keeps going through Portuguese first. And if your goal is to eventually think in English, that's not the path you want. Look, when I say think in English, I don't mean one day you will suddenly wake up and your brain will magically switch languages. It doesn't work like that. Thinking in English is something that happens little by little. It's the result of hundreds of small moments that happen while you're learning. At first, it's difficult because your brain wants to translate everything because that's what it's used to doing. But every single day you expose yourself to English, you train your brain to build new connections. And eventually, something really cool starts happening. Someone asks you a simple question, and before you even realize it, you answer, "Yes." Or someone holds the door for you, and you naturally say, "Thanks." Not because you stopped translating those words, but because they came to your mind automatically. That's one of the first signs that you're starting to think in English. Your brain isn't looking for the Portuguese translation anymore, and that's exactly why watching English content with English subtitles become extremely powerful. Because your brain is connecting what you hear with what you read in the same language. No translation in the middle. You're creating a direct connection. And again, it's not gonna happen overnight. But every time you watch something with English subtitles, you're training that connection a little bit more. And honestly, that's one of the biggest difference between people who understand English and people who actually start thinking in English. Now, let's talk about what really happens when we start using English subtitles. Because the benefits go way beyond just reading English. The first thing you'll notice is that you start understanding what English actually sounds like. And trust me, that's a much bigger deal than most people think. One of the biggest frustrations English learners have is this: they know a word when they see it, but they don't recognize it when a native speaker says it. Have you ever looked at a subtitle and thought, wait, that's what they said? That's because native speakers don't say every word slowly and clearly. Some words get connected, other sounds disappeared, some words become shorter. For example, if someone says, "What are you doing?" You probably learned how to pronounce every word. But in real life, it often sounds more like, "What are you doing?" Or maybe you heard, "I don't know." But instead, it sounds like, "I don't know." Without English subtitle, it can sound like a completely different language. But when you're reading the sentence while you are hearing it at the same time, your brain starts connecting the pronunciation with the actual word. And little by little, your listening skills improve naturally. And that's something that doesn't happen when you're reading Portuguese subtitles. Another huge benefit is that slowly you stop translating everything in your head. This is probably my favorite one because the more your brain does that, the easier it becomes to think in English instead of translating every sentence. Another thing I absolutely love about English subtitles is that they teach you vocabulary the way it's actually used. Think about it. How do most people try to learn new words? They open an app, memorize a list, and a week later, they've forgotten almost everything. When you're watching a movie, a TV show, or even a YouTube video, you see words exactly where they're supposed to be inside real conversations, inside real situations. Maybe you don't understand a word the first time you see it, and that's okay. But then you hear it again in another episode, and then again, and again. And after hearing it several times in different contexts, your brain starts understanding it naturally. That happened to me when I started watching More Than Family, a great TV show to learn about expressions and daily situations.
Mitchell, there's a stranger in our hot tub.
Who is it?
You do know what stranger means, don't you?
Oh my God. How long has he been there?
I saw him exactly 1 second before you. You know everything I know.
Okay, I'm calling 911.
I'm getting my bat.
Maybe we're overreacting.
Now, let's talk about grammar. Grammar isn't everyone's favorite topic, and some grammar structures can feel really confusing when you first study them. Take the present perfect, for example. A lot of students struggle to understand when to use it, but when you watch content in English regularly, you start hearing sentences like, "I have already seen it," "I have never been there," "I have just finished," over and over and over again. Eventually, your brain starts recognizing the pattern. When I'm watching something in English and I hear a really cool expression or a sentence that sounds really natural, I automatically repeat it exactly the way the character said it. And with that, I'm practicing shadowing without even noticing it. So we start watching English stuff with English subtitles. You will start recognizing common expressions much faster. You will become more comfortable with the rhythm of spoken English. And you will even stop feeling afraid of consuming content online. And if you are wondering, how am I supposed to start watching things with English subtitles without it feeling impossible? Here's my advice. Don't start with difficult things. Don't force yourself to watch something you're not interested in. Start with something familiar. Think about that movie you've watched over and over again, or that TV show you know almost by heart. Something that you already know the story. That way, your brain doesn't have to work so hard to figure out what's happening. And that's exactly what I did. For me, the movie was Finding Nemo. I knew what was gonna happen. I knew the characters, I knew the jokes. So when I watched it again in English, I wasn't focused on understanding the story anymore. I was focused on understanding the language. And honestly, it completely changed the experience. You should try.
What's that? I know what that is. yes. Oh, Sandy Plankin saw one. He said it was called a butt.
Wow, that's a pretty big butt.
Watching it in English almost felt I was watching it for the first time. I started noticing expressions I'd never paid attention to before. So don't make it harder than it needs to be. Start with something you already love. So for the next 7 days, challenge yourself. Start watching content in English with English subtitles. I'm 100% sure you will learn a lot with that. And after doing that, let me know in the comment if it worked out. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, follow me on my other social media accounts, hit the button like, comment something below, and share this video with your friends. And see you next video. Bye!